There are four different worlds when we're talking about knowing. While explaining each of these four worlds, I want to tell you a story. The first world is there are things you know that you know. When I was young, although I played several sports, I knew basketball came natural for me. It didn't take me long to use both hands, to dribble around cones, even to shoot the ball. Although my form wasn't all that great, I knew how to get the ball in the basket. Like I mentioned, there are things you know that you know. This was it for me. The second world are things that you know that you don't know. Now, even though I knew I can handle the ball, I can shoot, I can do all these things offensively, what I knew I didn't know was how to play defense. Early on, that's something I struggled with. You know it's bad when you got a guy who I used to call the right-hand bandit, would always go to my side of the floor because he knew I didn't play any defense. I remember my coach yelling at me because I couldn't stop the guy that only used his right hand. Coach would always say, "Garrett, just get on his right side and you can guard him. He's the only player that cannot use his left hand." And you know what? I did that. I actually took instructions. I was coachable, is what they call it. But for some reason, he would always trick me with an in and out, like he's gonna use his left hand, and I would fall for it every time. Now, the problem with me playing defense was that I didn't care if my man scored or not. I think what made my team and my coach so upset at me is that this player who only used his right hand would cross me over without even touching the ball with his left hand. Now, explain that to me. This is where I knew that I didn't know how to play defense. This is the reason why it fell into things that I know that I didn't know. Then there's world number 3, and that is things that I didn't know that I knew. So I didn't know I knew how to block shots. I remember the first time that I actually blocked a shot was because my coach was yelling at me that my man already passed me to run and play defense. So that's what I did. I ran, and when I saw him go up for the shot, I jumped too. Kapow! I slapped it against the wall. What I also didn't know that I knew was how to talk smack. It's something about blocking a shot that automatically has you say something that you normally wouldn't say. Get that So that's the world where there are things that you don't know that you know. Finally, the fourth world. There are things that you don't know that you don't know. There were players on TV when I was younger that I didn't know. I also didn't know how much time they put into their craft to be as good as they were. Just like every young kid who wants to be the best, I began to copy and practice what I saw. Let's take Michael Jordan, for example. At the time, I didn't know who he was. Everybody else did. So what did I do? I began copying his moves. After putting hours and hours of time into it, I finally put my practice to the test. It was game time, and every time I got the ball, I would practice his signature move. You know what that is, right? There was a problem though. Every time I did the move, I got called with a travel. It didn't make sense to me. What I didn't know that I didn't know, to successfully do his signature move, you have to be athletic. The reason why they were calling traveling on me is because every time I would fade away, I was already on the floor when I shot it. For those of you who don't know, I have a 7.3-inch vertical. Going back to the world of the things you know that you know, I knew he was one of the greatest players. That's why everybody else wanted to copy his game. Going back to the things you don't know that you don't know, is that it was a bad idea trying to become somebody that I wasn't. As I got older, I started noticing these people who were trying to be somebody that they weren't, slowly falling behind. Not only in basketball, but it also affected them off the court too. As I got older, there was one aha moment that made perfect sense when we talk about the worlds. I realized that the world, the things that you know, will never be as good without the world, the things you know that you don't know. You following me? If you want to take yourself to that next level, that next stage that separates you from everybody else, spend more time in that world that I call the things that you don't know. And that is because when you do that, it'll lead you to the things you don't know that you know, and also to that world of things you don't know that you don't know. Every time that you gain knowledge and apply it,
Applying is the key.
that's when that world, the know that you know, becomes so large that you become the person that you're destined to be. And while I'm at it, be yourself. Separate yourself from the rest of the pack, because as you get older, you will see that same pack that's just trucking along, growing up doing the things that they have to versus the things that they want to.